Hi guys, this is your ProQuest Art and Humanities database guide. First, I want you guys to think about the question that you're actually investigating, the problem, just the idea that you want to explore. I've pre-populated this for this example with something that I think might be relevant and something that you're thinking about. So are cooperative clothing organizations a sustainable and profitable practice? You probably heard about cooperatives, or you've bought something made by a cooperative before, and you might be thinking, is this kind of the right avenue for what I want to design? So it's super helpful when you're investigating something like this that's a little bit complex and has a few things happening to think about the facets, which are basically just the main ideas. These are clear and distinct divisions of the question that you create. So for this question, we have a few things going on. We have an industry that we want to think about, our cooperative clothing organizations. We have materials and products that we want to make, which are kind of implicit in our question, but aren't necessarily present in the actual question itself. And then we have our metrics of interest. So we're interested in if they're sustainable and if they're profitable. And we may be interested in the location, particularly if you're thinking about production in a certain place. It can be helpful to think about those places beforehand so that you can limit results to what might be most relevant to you. So I'm going to fill these up with some of the terms that I think are going to be helpful, and I will be right back. Hey everyone, so now we can see that all of our main ideas have been broken down into different ways that we can express them. So for industry, of course, we have the word cooperatives. We have the word exports, which is a broader term, but we are interested in the export process, so it's a good one to include. We can think about business just more generally to capture a few more results. And then we have here fashion N/5 cooperatives. The N/5 is what's called a proximity operator, so it's something that will help you find results that have the word fashion and cooperatives within 5 words of each other. You can change the 5 to any amount that you want, but I've found that 3 to 5 is especially helpful for things that are generally associated together. For materials and products, this could be different for each of you, but I've selected alpaca, vicuña, clothing more generally, knit with this asterisk, which means that the search will find knitting, knit, knits, and different permutations of the word knit. So you can get a few more things, a little bit more bang for your buck. Same thing with textiles. And I've also selected textile production and clothing production in quotes so that when it searches, it'll look specifically for the words textile production next to each other, which is something that we encounter a lot in our industry. Here we have metrics of interest, so sustainability, of course, economic equity, and sustainable agriculture. Similar to these are something that you might have heard in class or just among your peers or professors as something to consider when you're talking about these particular practices. Revenue, earning, and profit, or just earn. These are all terms that are associated with profitability, which is something we're interested in. If you didn't know earnings or revenues, you'd probably be able to find quite a few things with just profit, but it's good to think about synonyms. And then for locations, I selected South America, Central America, Bolivia, Colombia, Peru, and Mexico, because these are places that I would think about using the cooperative method as a means of production. So now that we have that put together, I'm going to show you what the search results would look like after conducting a search in the ProQuest Art and Humanities database. So I'll see you on the other side of that. This is the screen that you'll first see when you access the Art and Humanities database. You'll see that you're defaulted to basic search. You have this search box here. You have a description that you can read, and you'll notice that the subjects covered in this particular database are art, design, archaeology, anthropology, and these others listed here. So for what we're searching, art, design, and anthropology are probably areas that might be relevant to what we're looking for. Over here on the side, we have a few quick search tips in case you've forgotten anything from the handouts that you have to reference. And you have the option to search the help system, discover some common answers, and contact support if you need anything. So for our purposes, we're going to be using advanced search. So I'm going to hop over there, pre-populate it with the things from our main ideas activity, and then we'll see what kind of results we get. Hey everyone, so this is the advanced search screen. You'll notice that there aren't all of our terms listed here, and that's because eventually you run out of rows that you can add. I'll show you a workaround where you can use all of the terms that you put together, but for this exercise, I went ahead and I just limited the terms to things that are absolutely key to me. So for our question, we're looking at cooperatives. I'm most interested in alpaca, and I'm most interested in knits. So I've added these ands here as a way of making sure that the search knows I want all 3 of these things together in the same document, because that'll give me results that are the most helpful to me. I've added ors to these terms because I'm interested in documents that might talk about any of these 3 things with any of these 4 things. I've added an and here for South America, but an or for Bolivia, because I'm most interested in Bolivia, but I'd be interested in discussions around production in South America via cooperatives, no matter what country that was. I've limited also to full text, just because I think it's very immediately gratifying when you can read something in its entirety and kind of scan it to see if it's relevant to you. If you don't find a lot of results that you think are helpful, you can uncheck this and see if there are resources that look promising that you can find in other databases. For publication date, I'm starting with all dates because I'm interested in seeing how this profitability, sustainability, or just this practice in general has changed over time. Scrolling down, I've also limited the search to scholarly journals, and I've checked this for peer-reviewed. This can be incredibly important for assignments, especially if professors want you to be citing very highly regarded sources. They may not want the editorial angle that a magazine could take. So now that we've put this together, I'm going to go ahead and hit search, and let's see what comes back. Okay, so this is the results screen. And I'm already noticing that result number 1 is looking incredibly promising as something I would want to look at. But before I look at that, let's talk about some of the ways that you could filter your search, because these are a lot of results. So maybe I want to limit the date a little bit more. Maybe I want things that are just a little bit more relevant. I could do that if I wanted to. If I want to search specifically by a document type, let's say a feature or an article, or any of these other types, I could go ahead and include certain kinds and exclude certain kinds, especially editorial, interview potentially. If I don't want an obituary, of course, I'm going to eliminate that. We could also think about subjects. I'll warn you that in this particular database, subjects are created automatically, and they might be incredibly limiting to your results. So I would stray away from this to start. You can also limit by location, person, and language if you find it helpful. So now that I see a result that looks super promising, I'm going to click on it. And I'm noticing that the full text is scanned as a PDF. And I think it can be super helpful to print these out and read them physically, just because it's kind of designed to be read as if it was in the journal from which it's scanned. But that's a personal preference. Over here on the side, you can find a lot of helpful things to use. So you can download the PDF, number 1. You can create a citation automatically, which is super helpful for when you're writing papers. You can email it to yourself, you can save it to your account, and you can print it. You can also see other works that have cited this paper. So if this paper turns out to be incredibly helpful for my research, I might want to see who else is looking at this paper. And anyone who cited it will be a little bit more recent, so that might be more relevant to me. For instance, I hadn't thought about Guatemala as a site of production, and that might be interesting to me. And this looks like a title that is pretty promising, so that can be an incredibly helpful resource. You can also look at related items, see if any of these things seem like they would also be relevant. And then you can also search with the index terms that are associated with this particular document. So if this document turns out to be amazing, you could go ahead and select all of these or selections of them, and you could conduct a search directly with them. In this case, we only ended up with the one that we had originally started with, but this can be a great place to find new terms that you hadn't thought of originally. So now that we've done this via advanced search, I'm going to show you how you can use all of your terms at once using something called command line search. So I'll see you guys on the other side. Hey everyone, so this is totally optional. It's called command line search, and it's a sort of advanced search. And what it allows you to do is you can use all of the terms that you put together all at once. And you can group your main ideas into these parenthetical groupings. So you can make sure that the documents you find address at least one of these terms that you chose and all of the other terms. You can also still limit by full text and peer-reviewed, and you might be able to find different resources than you can with the different advanced searches that you have to create because of your limited terms. So let's see what happens when I search all of the terms that we put together for this exercise together at once. Are we going to get totally different results? Well, we got a lot less results, which can actually be great news because it's less things that we have to sort of filter on the side here and kind of scroll through to see if they're relevant for us. So our first result is the same, so that's an incredibly promising resource for us. But 2, 3, 4, 5, all of these are looking different. So there might be something here that's a little bit more helpful to us. If you find yourself doing very complex searches like this pretty often for papers, or if you're thinking about, putting together and starting your business, this can be incredibly helpful to get you to the resources that you need a lot more quickly. So I hope you will all give it a try, and I hope that this was helpful for you.